Hi, welcome to Messier Mantra. I'm your host, Mike Messier. We have a very special guest on this episode, Sadira Persaud. Sadira, did I say your name right?
That's correct, Sadira Persaud.
We've been through it so many times because what kind of background name is that? What kind of name is that?
Well, Sadira is actually a Persian name.
Okay.
It's Persian for lotus flower.
That's nice. That's really nice. And you were telling me about your parents' background. It's kind of interesting how they met.
Oh yeah, my mother is from Scotland, Glasgow, Scotland, and my dad is from the British island in Guyana. And they met when they were in Glasgow. My dad was a university student there, Glasgow University, studying engineering, and my mother was a nurse. And they met at a party, which was really cool.
That's great. And you have two siblings, you told me. And they're both actors too, right?
They're both actors, yes.
Do you want to give a mention to them, their names?
Oh, sure. My brother and sister, Sean and Sinead Persaud, they have a YouTube channel called Shipwreck Comedy, and they're currently working on a project called The Case of the Gilded Lily. And you should definitely check them out on YouTube. They're phenomenal.
And are you the youngest of the three kids?
I am, yes.
Okay, great. So it's kind of like you're just going into the family business a little bit.
Yeah.
What did your folks think when you started acting and also modeling too, because you've done some runway modeling? Where are your folks, kind of happy that all their kids are going into the creative arts type of thing?
I think they are, definitely. I think they, my mother always tells me that she finds it strange how we all went into the entertainment business because she always says that she can never see herself in that field.
Right.
And my dad's an engineer, so they're both kind of out of that realm. Right. But they're very supportive of me, and I really appreciate that.
That's good. And so you've done a lot of runway modeling, and as we were talking before the show, I was just kind of guessing that you said it was a hurry up and wait type of situation with a lot of these shows. Yeah, tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, I do mostly print because of my height, but for runway modeling, it's definitely a different experience. For example, I did a show in Boston Fashion Week a year ago, and we got to the location at 3 p.m., and we didn't get out until at least midnight. Wow.
Wow. And so it's just, and I'm sure that's not a deal where you can sit around and eat a bunch of pizzas but you kind of have to be like runway model-esque, which is like, it's intense, I bet.
It is very intense. You make a lot of friends though. It's very hard not to bond when you're with a group of people that long with a similar goal. So it's very fun. It's kind of tiring at some points, but it's all worth it when you get out there on that runway.
And what is that feeling like? Because most people would probably never really experience that being a runway model. So what's that? Is it a euphoric feeling? Is there self-consciousness? Is it? Explain it to us.
It's definitely all of those things. I know that when I'm there, it goes from being kind of overwhelmed by whatever's going on. First, we have to usually walk for Boston Fashion Week and get selected by our designers in the room. Right. And then we go in for our fittings and our hair and makeup, which is really fun. And then it's more waiting around while our audience comes in. And building up when we're lining up to go down that runway, it's very nerve-wracking and kind of exhilarating at the same time. And then once I get out there, I feel like I'm on top of the world, and I totally forget that I was ever nervous at all.
Does Tyra Banks still have her reality show, America's Top Model? Is that still around?
I think so. I think there's another season going on right now.
Okay. Is that something you would consider applying for, or is that not really something you're interested in?
I've been told to apply for that before. I'm not sure if I would go for that just now, but it definitely looks interesting, and I've seen a couple of episodes, and it looks really fun. A little hectic.
Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems like a show that could launch careers, and I just thought, from my limited knowledge of that world, that is mostly from her show, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, it seems like, I think people are kind of fascinated and also intimidated by models, to be honest with you, because I think for most people, a model represents something that they're not, and they have no idea, what these people are like, you know what I mean?
I definitely agree with that kind of stereotype. I know I've introduced myself to fellow classmates at school, and I told them that I do modeling part-time, And they always look at me and they're like, "Oh, you're a model, but you're so nice." And I'm like, "Well, why wouldn't I be?"
Right.
I'm a human being.
Right, because maybe they've seen, things portrayed in films or television that play into stereotypes for humor,
Yeah.
and then you kind of get a warped perspective of it.
I think so. I think that's definitely the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and then some other interesting things about you is, was it family and marriage counseling? You're going for a graduate degree, is that right?
That's correct. The master's, yeah.
Master's. And so where you, would you want to say where you're attending or?
Oh, sure. I'm at Salem State University. It's a great school. I went there for my undergraduate degree in psychology, and it's just a wonderful environment.
So how do you want to run your own practice with the counseling and do the modeling, or do the modeling first and then later segue into, or are you just kind of working it out? Because you're pretty young too, so you don't have to have your whole life figured out, of course.
But. Yeah, definitely. My plan is to go into that field as well as modeling on the side.
Okay.
My area of interest lays in being a therapist for LGBT youth.
Okay. And what brought you into that direction, if I can ask?
Well, I've always had an eye for psychology. I think it's one of the most fascinating fields out there. And I really took a strong interest in it. And also, I have a lot of friends in the LGBT community. And I've seen some of the struggles they've gone through. And I love helping people. So I figured that this was like the perfect career path for me.
Is bullying still an issue for these kids? Is that still a major concern? I mean, our society is becoming less bigoted, we hope that it is, but sometimes it seems that it's not. It's confusing because there's been so many years of people knowing not to bully each other based on ethnicity or gender or sexual orientation, but yet we always hear these cases of something bad happening. And there's probably a million cases that we don't hear about. So do you think it's getting easier for people, or is it just staying the same or worse?
I feel like it might be staying the same, definitely. I just know based on stories I've heard in the past of teen suicides in the LGBT community. For example, Jamie Robmeyer, who was a fan of Lady Gaga, and I remember hearing his story and how she made a tribute to him during one of her concerts. And it just kind of broke my heart because someone that young who had like so much to live for, and bullying was basically their cause of death. Right. And I feel like I can just help, if I can help in any way to help those kids, then that's great.
It's sad to hear that kids are self-destructive based on the exterior pressures of bullies or harassment or not being understood. That is sad stuff. So I commend you for helping in that direction and looking to help these kids.
Thank you.
Is there anything that people who are watching the show can do to help? Is there foundations or websites or just a general attitude change that maybe people can incorporate that you want to mention?
I know some really good organizations. There's the NAGLY in Salem, which is the North Shore Alliance for Lesbian and Gay Youth.
Right.
And there's also BAGLY, which is the Boston association of that. And they have really good I know they have really good fundraisers and really good programs for teens and just young people in that community. That's good.
Because, it's one thing, it makes you think about things like, if people don't agree with something, okay, don't agree, but why would, it's frustrating to see people that go out of their way to harass or bully other people.
Definitely.
Based on differences. It makes no sense, but it always happens, and it's just very frustrating that this still exists. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So, on a lighter note, now you've also gone into the world of acting, which is, I probably know more about that than the modeling for me. But with acting, how's that going for you? What types of experiences are you looking to have, or have you had, or working on type of thing with acting?
Well, I have had some minor experience in it, but unfortunately the films I've been in haven't been released to the public.
Right.
But I have worked on some indie short films, And I really hope to get more into that. I really would like to do more horror films, which is my favorite genre of film.
Okay. What kind of horror films do you like? Like any titles of horror films that the audience might have seen, things that caught your attention?
Definitely one of my favorite films and books is Psycho.
Oh, yeah.
The whole Psycho series is just great to me. I love Anthony Hopkins.
Right, the original Anthony Hopkins Psycho masterpiece. And just the way that they call him the master of suspense, right? Alfred Hitchcock. And
definitely.
You know, just the shower scene and everything. It's just so
exactly.
iconic. And then so what I thought was interesting, you just said the series, meaning did you watch the sequels? Because they did a couple of sequels for the original Psycho. You know, they did
I did.
Yeah.
I saw all of those. I actually got a box set for myself for Christmas last year, and I realized I just said Hopkins instead of Perkins. I think it's Perkins, Anthony Perkins.
Okay, you're right, Anthony Perkins. Yeah, good catch, yeah.
A little bit of nerves right there, but
That's all right.
I've seen all of them, and he was just like the whole storyline is amazing.
Right, and it is. I remember. I think I've seen the sequels as well, and it's interesting because you have such an iconic first film, and then to try to add to it, I'm kind of impressed and glad that you have followed up on the other ones too and got something out of them. Yeah, that's cool.
Oh yeah.
Did you watch the Vince Vaughn sequel or the remake? Did you ever see that one?
I didn't know.
Yeah, it's not very good. You're not missing much. You know, he tried, but they kept it a little too close to the original, so it didn't really make sense. You know what I mean? So let's talk about what else is going on with your career. Is there other horror films that you like?
I haven't. Well, one that definitely stuck with me, I watched this with my sister like very long ago, was The Strangers with Liv Tyler. And the thing that creeped me out the most about it was because it was based on a true story that happened to the director.
Oh, wow.
And I remember almost jumping into my sister's lap out of fright during scenes. And to this day, if I'm home alone, I can't like leave any of the lights off.
Right.
And it's kind of, my parents find that hilarious.
That's funny. Did you see the Get Out film by any chance?
I did.
And what did you think of that one?
I thought it was phenomenal. I went and saw it myself because neither of my parents like horror movies.
Right.
And I thought it was really suspenseful, more suspenseful than horror, I would say. But it was definitely different than anything I've ever seen before.
Yeah. I mean, the themes of, racism and identity and interracial dating are all kind of like turned inside out. And what I did a little research. I saw the film, and I guess I don't know if it was a writer, director, or both, but he was an interracial guy, I believe, or biracial guy. So he kind of had a very interesting perspective on the whole thing. It's interesting when horror can take on societal elements and risk controversy or risk critique or criticism, but kind of go out on a limb. And that's how I kind of watched that film. I said, look, he is using some broad stroke stereotypes of racist behavior and interracial dating, like all these kind of themes, but he's provoking. He's causing a conversation. You know what I mean?
Most definitely.
Yeah. And then what I think is missing from a lot of films, not just these days, but in all days, is when filmmakers take that safe route of, okay, we're going to make this film in order to hit this target audience and, make our money and, recoup our investment. And
yeah.
So when you see something that takes a little risk, it's nice.
Oh, definitely. It's very refreshing.
Yeah, definitely. What are your other interests besides acting, modeling, the marriage and family counseling? What else are you into?
I'm a huge fan of reading any type of literature, especially horror.
Okay.
And I've also taken up drawing.
Nice.
Recently. I've always done that my whole life, but I've actually just gotten better at it more recently. And one of my new habits right now is sketching old Hollywood starlets.
Oh, that's
and then
awesome.
giving them like a punk makeover.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's phenomenal. I could totally see that being on T-shirts and stuff.
I love that.
We'll have to go into business. I'll be your manager and take a cut of the profits. But I can totally see you doing that. And where did you get the passion for drawing?
It was kind of almost like an intrinsic thing growing up. I mean, when I was younger, I could draw stick figures and really like kind of terrible cartoon drawings. But as I got older, I kind of took an interest in sketching more, especially old Hollywood icons. Like, I'm a huge fan of Marilyn Monroe.
Right.
And I've definitely drawn her a bunch of times. And first I started drawing tattoos
Right.
on them, and then I switched over to the whole punk look.
Like steampunk or traditional punk or like mohawks and piercings and
Kind of like traditional punk, yeah.
yeah, leather jackets with the spikes and the
Definitely.
Sex Pistols, you know, never mind the sex. What was it? Never mind the bollocks. Here comes the Sex Pistols. That famous album.
I
right?
think so.
Yeah.
That was it.
Do you like punk music, like that scene? Are you into that?
I definitely am. I love one of my favorite singers, who's actually on my phone case, is Billy Idol.
Oh yeah, it's a nice day for a white wedding.
Yeah.
It's a nice day to start again, right?
Yeah.
That's funny. What attracted you to Billy Idol's music in his career?
I think it was actually my mom who kind of introduced me to him. She's growing up in Scotland. She had posters of like Robert Plant, Led Zeppelin in her bedroom. Those were like, they were kind of like not really the One Direction of the 60s,
Right.
but definitely they were most popular back then. And she introduced me to Billy Idol because she grew up listening to him,
Right.
and as well as David Bowie, who I'm also a huge fan of.
I had a David Bowie LP collection for a while. Changes Bowie, I think, and then he had like there was like 6 picture discs of David Bowie. It was pretty incredible. I mean, what anytime you see a movie that has some type of space theme, they always play Space Oddity.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
You know what I mean? Like any movie that has anyone going to outer space, they always kick in Ground Control to Major Tom. You know what I mean? It's
Definitely.
such a thing. What are some of your other favorite videos or songs by Bowie in particular? I'm kind of curious.
Well, it's really hard to pick one. I love this live video he did of Starman
Okay.
from 1972 or 1973. And I'll watch it on YouTube and I'll just get mesmerized by it over and over again. And another one of my favorite movies of his is Labyrinth.
Okay, interesting, nice. What did you like about that one? It's a classic fantasy movie.
Oh, definitely. I just love, well, he was like the main reason I watched it in the first place, and the storyline of how Sarah has to go through this maze to get her brother back, even though she found him really annoying at first, and now her attitude kind of changed towards him.
Right.
But the whole film, I could watch it over and over again.
I like that song Blue Jean that he did. I don't know if you that's a really great one, and just a really fascinating guy. I know a lot of people were kind of sad when he passed away.
Definitely.
It was about a year and a half ago, I think, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and Prince. I don't know if you were a Prince fan as well. But
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. What did you like by him?
I kind of just loved his whole aesthetic. I remember finding out that he was so petite in stature that he actually wore high heels on stage when he would perform.
Right.
And I found that really interesting, especially because I know from history that when high heels came out, they were originally designed for men.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about that, because I wouldn't have no idea about that.
I actually learned that in my art history class when I was an undergraduate,
Right.
and also in part of my fashion classes back at my old school, Marion Court. And I found it really kind of like fascinating that they originated for men, and now they're mostly a female accessory.
Why were the men wearing the high heels originally?
I really can't. I think the reason why was because when they were riding horses, they had to have an easier way to get up on them, especially if they didn't have any assistance from other people.
Right. So the high heels just kind of.
Yeah, and I think it was also a symbol of wealth,
Interesting.
especially for kings and princes.
I was saying, going back to the fashion runway modeling, that, you know, from the little that I see about runway modeling, sometimes they do have these clothes that are not particularly practical. They just look really good. And sometimes you'll see the models wearing like really high heels. And I was thinking, wow, that's like it's almost dangerous. If you're running around backstage and all these models are bouncing off each other and journalists or whatever, can it get a little dangerous or treacherous if you have these high heels on or these clothes that, you know what I mean?
I definitely had that kind of experience. It's made me a little bit more cautious in my everyday life. But I've definitely in like the back rooms at runway shows, I've definitely seen a couple of people trip up on their shoes.
Right.
Especially if they're provided for them and they don't bring their own shoes. Like these shoes I have on are like, I've worn these on the runway before and they're the most comfortable things.
Right. Well, I mean, see, that to me, that's a very stylish shoe. Is it particularly practical? It's got like all these straps and stuff on it, the shoe.
I would say it's practical, like in a more like business or kind of like evening wear setting.
Right.
I'd love to wear them more often, but usually I'm just running around in my sneakers most of the time, especially at work.
Right. We actually have some photographs that you brought, so thank you.
Yeah.
We have 4 photographs. Before we forget, if we could just have our production team of Cody and Kevin check out the photographs, we'll insert them. And you had some really nice, you've worked with some really great photographers. Here we go. So here's the first one, which I think is really nice. This, I said, looks like, the most, I don't know how old you were when you took this, but it's like the most killer prom picture. Like here's the queen of the prom coming down, But
Yeah.
maybe a little bit older when you took the picture. I don't know, but that's great. Who's the photographer for this green dress photograph?
His name is Kevin Day.
Yeah, he did a great job. And then, of course, you make the photograph. And then very interesting piece of jewelry, like a bracelet or on your wrist, on your right wrist, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then your fingernails are kind of the color is very unique on the fingernails. I don't even know what that color would be. It's kind of a mix of orange and yellow or something?
Yeah, it's like an apricot kind of color.
Okay, that makes sense. Apricot, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice one. And then the background's kind of interesting, too, that kind of weathered, look on the background. Then we take a look at the next one. This is a great one, too. Very stunning eyes, brown eyes, and this is Mike Song is the photographer?
That's correct. He's great.
Yeah, so he really captured a cool moment with your eyes making like immediate contact with the camera. That's really good. And this could be like an acting headshot as well, I would say.
Oh, I would definitely use that, yeah.
Yeah. And then we have the next one. He's from Twilight Images Studio. Jim Brady. This was my personal favorite. This just looks great. So you're wearing kind of the black dress, and just the hair is fantastic, and this really is a great photograph.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's hard to get a good photograph, but you've done it successfully, obviously.
Thank you.
Now, do you do your own hair and makeup for this, or is there someone in the studio that helps you with that?
Well, for this particular picture, I didn't do my own makeup. There was a studio in Salem, Massachusetts called Makeup Eden.
Right.
And my makeup artist name, who's the owner of the business, her name's Jennifer. And she just worked wonders. I've worked with her before.
Yeah, she's great. She did a great job. And you did your part, obviously. And let's take a look at the next one. And here we go. It's a traditional kind of swimwear attire. And this is, at a beach somewhere. Was it a public beach? And was there people going around the beach while you're doing this? And
There was. It was Plymouth Beach.
okay. And when you're doing I guess, I don't know if the photographer was just him or was it a her, the photographer?
Oh, this photographer's name was Gordon Yu, and
Okay.
he's part of this camera club for the North Shore, and they got together and it was me and 2 other models.
Right.
And we just had 3 hours of pure fun in the sun.
And I just wonder what the local townsfolk are thinking. You got Frank from the convenience store and his wife Bertha are coming in. They see these gorgeous models and this photographer. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But maybe that didn't happen. I don't know. But that's some great stuff. And then I think what's really cool is that you've worked with 4 different photographers. Took those 4 different images, and all of them. The consistent thing is you, obviously, because you're what making the photographs work. Without the proper, the best subject, in yourself, then it doesn't matter how good the photographer is. But they did their parts too, obviously.
Oh yeah, they're all amazing to work with.
When you take a still image like that, when you're in the subject matter, do you have any tips for people out there, even if they want to, maybe not to the budget of that, but maybe, if there's some potential models out there, is there any tips you give or insights into how to prep yourself for a really good photograph?
Well, definitely definitely be confident in yourself, and also know what looks good on you, what colors you like the best. That always makes a huge difference. And you don't even have to, if you don't want to get a makeup artist, I would definitely go on YouTube, because everything is on YouTube. That's
Right.
what I do. And find out what makeup looks best on you. And definitely, also the internet is great for looking up different poses, but whatever you're comfortable with naturally, it's always best to look natural in everyday pictures instead of looking very uncomfortable and stiff.
Someone told me that if you lick your lips before a flash goes off or a photo is taken, like you lick your lips real quick, it's supposed to give a better glint to your mouth or something.
Oh, wow.
I'm not even making that up. And it was like a guy, Tom Kane, a film teacher who was a producer on Kramer vs. Kramer, told me that one. Like, you're supposed to lick your lips right before the flash goes off, and it gives you your mouth or your face in that area a better countenance of some kind. Just a little tip. See, I got tips too.
I'll have to make note of that.
Right. You'll start looking at why are you looking at her lips? We weren't going to hire her, but she started looking at her lips. So this show has gone by pretty quick. And we have about 2 minutes left. And I hate to put you on the spot, but the Messier Mantra is all about a mantra. Do you have a mantra for your life, your career? Is there any quote from a famous person or even yourself or anyone that, is there any mantra or ethic that you live and work by that you want to share with the audience?
Well, one that comes to mind is actually from my older brother. When I was about 18 years old, I was visiting him in California, and we were in Urban Outfitters.
Right.
And I wanted to get this jacket with like spikes all over it. And back then I was a really insecure 18-year-old. And I'm like, and my brother was telling me that you should totally get it. And I was like, no, I don't want people to think I'm weird. I'm totally the opposite of this today. I just do whatever makes me happy. And this great word of advice that he told me was, let people think you're weird. And to this day, I always think of that.
Well, I like that because you mentioned people like Lady Gaga or whoever we were talking about, and people must have thought they're weird, but now they're
definitely
famous and they're self-empowered.
Yeah.
And I can see that happening for Sadira Persaud. Did I say that name right?
That's correct.
I'm glad I did. I told you, I had Frank Jones on the on the pilot of Messier Mantra, the unseen pilot, and I kept saying Frank Jones, and he was like, no, that's Frank Jones. And we went back and forth for half an hour. No, I'm just kidding. Sadira Persaud, it's been a pleasure, and you're going to have to come back to the Messier Mantra again in the future.
Most definitely.
And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I've had a great time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Thanks for watching this episode of Messier Mantra with our guest, Sadira Persaud, actress and model. We look forward to great things for her. And thank you for watching Messier Mantra.